don't have a teleprompter. I've been a respiratory therapist almost 44 years. Does anybody remember inhalation therapy? Well, before that, we were oxygen orderlies. In my career, I've worked in every area of the hospital. Neonatal ICU, pediatric, adult ICUs, ERs. I was technical director of a large cardiopulmonary service in Fort Lauderdale for 6-7 years. While I was there, I was an affiliate faculty member from the same program that I graduated from. And got involved with the American Heart Association in the mid-70s as a CPR instructor. Basic, advanced, transport. But everything in my career, everything that I've been involved in, nothing prepared me for what happened on April 9th, 2009. As the video so beautifully showed, Christopher had suffered a very, very severe right frontal lobe injury. And it was very, very touch and go as to whether he was going to survive the accident or not. I'd like to give a tremendous plug and appreciation to the first responders. The paramedics, the critical care transport people that were the first responders did an amazing job of establishing an airway under the worst possible conditions. A dark intersection, 1:30 in the morning, but they were able to stabilize him to the point where he could be airlifted to the nearest trauma center. When we got to the hospital, we were told by the ER nurse to wait in a room, that the neurosurgeon and the ER physician would come in and speak with us. Now I know this drill. So we got on our knees and we began to pray. The neurosurgeon told us that depending on how things went in the next 24 hours, they would determine, where they would go from there. They put in a bolt, to measure intracranial pressures. And when the surgeon came back, you could see a little bit of a smile on his face. And so we knew that the pressures weren't as bad as they feared they might be, and he was being transferred to the intensive care unit. The thing about this that makes it so surreal, not only had I been involved in critical care for many, many years, Christopher's mother was also a registered nurse, and she had actually been the nurse manager for that very same unit that Christopher was in. My wife Carol is a CCRN. So we knew, I've heard other advocates talking about how, we didn't know the language, we didn't understand the hierarchy, and we didn't know the procedures. Well, we did. And we had absolutely no complaints at all about any of the care that Christopher received for those first 18 days. But something went terribly, terribly wrong. We believe that something had gone wrong with that airway 12 to 14 hours prior to the time that he coded. And primarily because lab values showed that Christopher had had a compensated respiratory acidosis, Now, there's a lot of you here that understand, what that means. It means that not only was he not ventilating properly, but he had not been ventilating properly for quite some time. And what happened to his airway either had gone undetected or unreported. We don't know which. I've heard a couple of presenters talk about how you always have to remember the human factor, and I believe with that. I echo that in the strongest possible sense, because, as we said, all the technology was there. It just wasn't in play, for some reason. The reason we weren't there early in the morning on the 9th was because the three of us were with a lawyer setting up a trust account for Christopher's two daughters. At the time, they were 3 and 6. And we were making plans for a long rehabilitation, and we were making plans for what we were going to do to be sure that the girls were taken care of, and had absolutely no idea the disaster that was pending. It was wonderful to hear Dr. Meyer talk about MedStar and their response when things like this happen. In our case, after a couple months, just this this recurring nightmare. What could we have done? What could we have done to prevent this? We decided to pursue a wrongful death suit, and then we learned about another aspect of a tragedy like this that I haven't heard too much talk about yet, but it involves the legal system. In Florida, the hospital where Christopher was at was a tax-assisted hospital trauma center, and it was protected by a statute called sovereign immunity. Now, you remember when I said that I had been working in hospitals for a long, long time. I'd never heard that term before. I didn't understand the implications of a limitation of liability for a situation like this. What we learned was that at this time in 2009 in the state of Florida, this statute was $100,000 per claimant. Now, because Christopher was an adult and he only had one legal claimant, his one daughter, that was his bloodline, the limit was $100,000. When we talked with 3 different legal teams, we were advised that there was no way that we would spend less than $250,000 bringing the case to court. So we were advised to go to mediation. During the mediation, the lawyers representing the hospital, representing the anesthesiology group and the emergency room group, who were subcontracted by this hospital system, to work there. Cumulatively, their lawyers offered us a $40,000 settlement. At that point, we decided that we had to find some way to make this thing, that we had to find some good to come out of this. We wrote a book. We wrote a book detailing the events, hoping that this might be something that could be used by anyone who had any intention of being involved in critical care in any way to prevent something like this from happening again. While I was getting ready to attend the ARC Congress in Las Vegas last December, I was looking over the program, and I saw that the keynote speaker was Dr. Michael Ramsey. And I saw that he had an organization at Baylor that was called First Do No Harm, and that the topic of his keynote address to this Congress was going to be preventable, how to intervene and stop preventable deaths in hospitals. And I thought, I've got to meet this man. I've got to find some way to talk to him. I sent him an email, and he read the email. He forwarded my email, my information to Jim Bialik, and here we are. I am so very, very grateful to the patient safety movement. My wife Carol is here with me. We've just been so incredibly impressed by not only the commitment of the individuals and the resources that are being put into the objectives of the patient safety movement, but also the opportunity that we see to finally find some positive way to channel the anger, the frustration, and the grief. Instead of letting it fester, we are committed to participating with the patient safety movement. We're going to take this back to Florida, and we're going to make sure that there are many, many more Floridians here next year. Thank you.